Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. I'm Kevin Wallace, and before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends over at Streetside Brewery, the best Cincinnati brewery you will find out there. They are doing some amazing work over there in Columbia, Tusculum, East End area of Cincinnati. It is a really great spot, brewing some of the best beer you will find in the region. And speaking of Streetside, on October 19th, Decision Day, we are hosting another live show. Yes, we are going back to Streetside. We are hosting another live show October 19th. We will be there from 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock, and then the FC Cincinnati game will be going at 6 o'clock. That is Decision Day. Come on out. It's going to be a blast. We've got some special guests lined up. There's going to be games. There's going to be prizes to give away. It's going to be a ton of fun. So please come on out to Streetside October 19th. You are going to have a blast. And maybe the best part about Streetside, if you go there and mention the postcast, mention this podcast, they will knock $1 off of each beer you buy there. That's right. You get a couple bucks off of your bar tab just for admitting in public that you listen to the postcast. It's not a bad deal. So a huge thank you to Streetside for sponsoring this episode, and thank you for coming on out to that live show October 19th. It's going to be a ton of fun. And on today's episode, well, look, this is not exactly how we all saw the season going, right? It's not the result we wanted against Orlando. But I don't think all hope is lost. This is a good episode, I think, to move forward with. There's some ideas, there's some analysis. We look at what are some of the changes that have happened from the beginning of the year to now. We look at some of the personnel decisions and individual decisions in this game. We analyze Roman Celentano's positioning and his overall goalkeeping game right now. What's going on up top? Joe Aquini, what are those really fun special things that Noonan and company really enjoy him doing up top that has earned him over and over starting positions? This is a good episode, I think. Even after a loss, I think that this is a good one. Then in part two, we look around the league, we look around MLS, see what's going on leading into the final regular season week. And finally, we wrap it all up with some Patreon questions, some classic Patreon questions there. So you throw that all together, you got yourselves a nice old gumbo of postcast. Joining me to talk about all of that and more, I've got two gentlemen here that look like they're in their usual recording setup. Welcome the Chief, welcome Grayson. Chief, I made a change to my computer office desk setup here. I went from 2 monitors to 1 monitor. Your thoughts?
Is this like there was that wild post on Twitter or X a while ago that was encouraging more people to hand wash their clothing to save energy and to live more green? Is this part of like some, what do they call it? Like the de-teching or the what's the term for it? I forget, but are we trying
digital
to like
minimalism or something?
Yeah, are we
like
trying
that?
to lower your carbon footprint a little bit here? Or like declutter your digital life? Is this are we making a policy statement here? I'm very curious.
I really wish I had like a bigger, better idea behind this. Like all of that would be great. I would love to sit here and tell you, yes, this is climate change. This is, reclaiming my attention span, all that good stuff. What it really is me being so bought into the Apple ecosystem that when I tried to venture out, I got scared and scurried back. So I have a M1 MacBook Air. This is Apple Silicon, and the MacBook itself does not support 2 external monitors. It only supports 1. But I could use a program that would mimic the 2 monitors. The problem is I was running into too many issues with that program. I moved back to 1. Everything runs flawlessly. I'm staying back in my walled garden.
I saw a tweet the other day that was like, it was something along the lines of like, this is the optimal productivity setup, but nobody wants to admit it. And it was just like one laptop open on a desk. And, you know, I think there's probably some truth to that. That like, you know, you think like, oh, I got to get like 3 monitors up. I got to get like everything open. Yep. But as soon as you have like multiple screens up, your first instinct, at least my first instinct, is being like, well, I can have like the New York Times open.
Right.
Right.
Or there's like a YouTube video playing over here.
I can have Twitter up here, or I can have like a YouTube just for like kind of background, you know, noise. Like I like kind of ambient noise. It makes me like it keeps me from like losing focus, because I can keep, you know, there's something going on in the background, and then soon enough you've spent like 45 minutes just like changing, you know, YouTube videos, right?
Yes.
Or it's like I'm not using this monitor right now for anything, so I'll just leave Twitter just on a browser window right here. I'll leave Discord up and just see, you know, in case anything happens. Then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I haven't looked at the work monitor in a really long time. It's
I think sometimes I do think that sometimes like your imagination of like how productive you can be in like the level that you can perform at gets in the way of just like, maybe I just need to have one Word document open. Yes. And then just like work in this Word document for a little bit. Right. So maybe sometimes like the simple thing, just like focusing on one task. And just like doing one task for a little bit. Maybe that's just what you got to do.
Yeah.
Do you ever go into like a coffee shop and see someone working just with the laptop and maybe a pair of headphones and just wonder, what are they doing? Is this?
I've seen Saltburn. I know what they're doing.
I also think what a tremendously freeing lifestyle too. Like I still work in a traditional. I'm a dinosaur. I still work in a traditional office job where I go into the office Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. ish.
Gross.
I know, right? The idea, I am the, you know, the meme of the person the bird looking out the window and seeing the other birds flying. Whenever I go to like, I'll stop in the middle of the day, I'll wander up to Coffee Emporium up on Central Parkway, and I see these people having a coffee and getting work done, but it's very clear they're going to be there for a little bit. They'll be someplace else for a little bit. Yeah. I know that because Coffee Emporium are just have an absolutely awful Wi-Fi policy about kicking you off after a certain amount of time. It must be so freeing. But instead, I find myself tethered to a desk with multiple monitors.
I was thinking about something like kind of adjacent to that yesterday. My wife and I went out on like a long hike, and we started talking about like what happened to Gawker.
As one does on a long hike.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like the Gawker websites, like the Gawker, Jezebel, Deadspin, Kotaku, Gizmodo, IO9, like in their heyday, that may have been like the best like internet media site ever. I know like they had their criticisms and like anybody, you know, has flaws and stuff. But as far as just like constant like variety and quality of content pumping out over and over and over again I think it's been unmatched. And one of the things that made them such a good family of sites is they all worked in the same office. So like you had like conversations that would just pop up between like Deadspin writers and Jezebel writers. And once a year, Deadspin and Jezebel would swap, and like Jezebel would write the Deadspin content for a day and Deadspin would write the Jezebel content for a day. And it's just like constant entertainment, you know? and just like talented people with like kind of like a curated voice, just building on each other, by in large part just being in the same place all day. And that's never going to happen again.
No. The other part of that website family that made it so fantastic was the comment section was routinely fire on every article. Like you would read the article and it was like, oh, your entertainment from this particular click is only just beginning. Let's scroll down to the comment section and see what the people have to say about this.
That's so funny because like the comment section of Deadspin created Kissing Susie Colbert.
Yep.
And those guys like Drew McGarry was Kissing Susie Colbert and then became like the star
of Deadspin. Yeah.
Right. With the Jamboree. And the you know what's great is the Why Your Team Sucks.
Why Your Team Sucks.
Yes. The Why Your Team Sucks series is so good.
Part of the reason I'm doing
also,
this.
PFT commenter.
Yeah. Started on he wrote for KSK after starting as a person in the comments section on Pro Football Talk.
Yep.
You know, it's funny. The entire reason I'm on this podcast, because, you know, I had a separate life doing all the supporters stuff.
That's over now.
Over now. Yeah, no. But when Kevin said he was starting up the Post as a website to write content on, I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll throw something in under a pseudonym. And I was just doing a bad Drew what's his McGarry?
Drew McGarry. He was big on KSK. He was Big Daddy Drew.
Big Daddy Drew. Also, Ken Tremendous from he was Fire Joe Morgan, right?
He was Fire Joe Morgan.
Fire Joe Morgan.
Which KSK ripped off. Like, well, actually, Drew ripped him off with the Peter King. What was the?
There was Monday Morning Quarterback was Peter King.
So Drew McGarry did the Fire Joe Morgan style thing to Peter King every week.
Yeah.
And I actually read that before I even heard of Fire Joe Morgan.
When I started writing for the Post, I was just doing a bad Drew impersonation. Like the name that I wrote, the Friday Fun Blast, was just quite literally, it was a shameless rip on, he did the Friday Fun Bag, where it was, he would rank all the NFL games to watch and then intersperse in there just like random comments about life and society and stuff like that. I just shamelessly
the Jamboree, I think, when they started doing like Thursday football all the time.
Yeah. I stole his bit and I stole his voice to start writing for the Post. Like there was no original thought whatsoever when it came to me writing. That era of the internet was peak.
It was so good.
Probably was peak internet.
And it's funny how that once Twitter became a thing, anyone that had anything funny to say or anyone that had anything observational or witty to say, they weren't going to sit and type out 5,000 words or 1,000 words on a website like that when they could just go and get impressions on Twitter.
Yep.
Oh, the internet's cooked, man.
Yeah.
It's like aggregator stuff. It's like, like show me an example of a perfect album, or like somebody posting a video that just says like, let me know when you see it. And then all the replies are just other people posting engagement farm videos. And you're like, I don't know what I was supposed to see. Except for all these other videos, half of which are not appropriate.
Yeah.
The only group that's even close to that, what Gawker is, I know their content is off-putting for a lot of people, but Barstool at times can be kind of close to that, just in terms of large number of people all under the same roof working in the office. Although it has gotten a little worse since they split the office between New York and Chicago when, pardon my take, wanted to move out into the Midwest. But like, it's so hard to replicate that vibe that Gawker had, just because it was the end of the era where people were actually willing to click through and read an article.
Yes.
When everybody had the attention span to do that. It was before you could monetize content on Twitter and especially TikTok. And honestly, it's before it became a meme on a large number of places, the pivot to video.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden, all the money on the internet became doing video content. And so I remember Twitter, where the overwhelming majority of your timeline was actual tweets. It was people writing things. The other day, I was, like I said, killing time on the second monitor. And I just had this thought to myself, it's bizarre how much content on Twitter now is video content and how much content on Instagram is video content. And then, you pair that with TikTok and Facebook doing their version of TikTok and Instagram doing their stories and everything. It's the written word is rapidly becoming a dying art online. And I know there's a great amount of irony in us saying this in a podcast.
A podcast that has largely cannibalized the written content of the website.
I don't know. I weep for people that didn't experience that era of the internet. 'Cause I do think it was better.
And the video stuff that circulates on Twitter is degenerate. It's toxic. It's erosive of the culture of like your. I'm sorry, I sound like I'm like lecturing or whatever, but like it's it's some genre of like smut or repurposed videos of people fighting in a Walmart from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Somebody's bizarre 8-minute video of like somebody said something objectionable online, so they stalked them and like are now going to tell you like their address and phone number and employer and like the names of their kids and stuff. People wrongly identifying people who are like maybe having an affair in an office. Like it's destructive. It's awful. It's the worst. And like I go on and literally the only thing I want to see is like people talking about FC Cincinnati to like second tier people talking about MLS, third tier people talking about world soccer. And it's impossible.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible to curate your feed unless you only look at
who you follow.
You're following. Right. But I don't want to follow a lot of people.
No.
Like I want the algorithm to just look at what I follow and what I interact with and feed me similar stuff. Which it does feed me similar stuff. And then also people like measuring skulls with calipers. And
this is a crew fan.
Right.
It's funny. I was going to bring this up a couple weeks ago when we were debating like how we were going to fill out another show. And I was saying, are we going to do in the 11 out of the 18? Did you guys hear about social AI?
I don't want to
about this.
Tell me about it.
Tell you about it. Social AI is a program that creates it's an app you download that starts a social media feed for you. So it looks like Twitter, you're posting, you post whatever you want, but then the app, all of your followers are AI bots. There is no one else that you are interacting with. And so you post and then immediately the AI bots start liking your post. And then other AI bots generate responses to your post to create the illusion of interaction. And then your timeline is populated by other AI bots that are just pretending to be real people tweeting. So it's like you open Twitter and you're the only real person on the app, and you can set it so that it's affirming or it behaves in whatever way you want. So if you just want people to tell you how smart you are and how incredibly funny what you're posting is, you can set it up so that all of the AI bots just keep putting you in that feedback loop where they agree with you and tell you how cool you are. It's the dead internet theory come to life.
I kind of love that as like a horrific experiment parents could play on their kids.
Yeah.
Where they'll tell like one kid that this is Twitter and it's very affirming, and tell another kid this is Twitter and it's like very combative.
See, there was an article on it in TechCrunch. Here's I'm just going to read a bit of a snippet of it here. Think about it. No remark you post to social AI will ever be greeted with silence nor fail to engage en masse. You simply can't get ghosted. The app's faux users exist to hang on to your every word, leveraging programmed enthusiasm to chip canned commentary into your replies. Even the sarcastic, snarky, and pessimistic bots can't resist joining these continuous scroll comment pile-ons. And the best thing is, you can rest assured that there are no actual humans to harsh your vibe.
I do love that. I was thinking though, and I have to admit, I got this idea from my wife.
Here, hold on, this. I'm gonna
please
this other thing.
Continue.
The founder Saman says he's been toying with the idea of social AI for years, wanting to build a safe space for people to share thoughts and get private feedback. But it was only more recently that AI technology, and specifically the large language models underpinning the boom in generative AI, caught up with his vision for a private social network where users can bounce ideas off a diverse community of AI. What?
Oh my God.
The most obvious difference is that some social apps, the social AI users need to choose specific categories of their followers by picking from a long list of bot types, such as oddballs, nerds, intellectuals, and trolls, or liberals, conservatives, and jokesters, and many more besides.
Oh my God. I have to try this out. Does it cost money?
I have no idea.
you can catch the post over at social.ai. That's where all of our social media activity is going to go.
This is, like I said, it's dead internet theory come to life. And
yeah.
I don't know. I just, AI is bad. And this is bad.
I'm a big believer in dead internet theory. Like consider me bought in on that.
I saw a thread that was like, it was like AI creating, I don't even remember. It was something like the Avengers if it was in like the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing. That's a big thing on TikTok now, where you'll see like Star Wars if it was a retro movie, a sci-fi movie from the 50s.
In like, I would say 2/3 or 3/4 of the people were not even like, in their prime in the 90s. Like right. I was like, what the? It's hard to decide. Like, so the only way that it's hard to decide if like something is AI or like a real person is that so many people have developed in such a way, like, I don't know if it's because of like whatever medication they're on or like what kind of school they went to, where like they themselves are indistinguishable from AI. Like they have no like I watched somebody did I asked AI to create like a live action like Studio Ghibli trailer, and it's like, no, you pulled all the life and humanity out of this thing. You've not just added nothing to this. You have pulled out of it anything that makes it appealing,
right?
Or makes it resonate with like anybody who is like in touch with any shred of humanity.
Which does raise an existential question. If you ever got fooled by one of these and you ended up liking it, like where, you sit and you watch it, you're like, oh my God, that's profound. And then at the end, it's like written by MacBook Pro. That's got to be game over for you as a person.
You got to get off. You got to get offline.
Yeah, you got to be done.
You have to get a job in the trades.
You got to take a detox.
You got to dump your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know the exact prescription, but like, talk to me. Like we'll figure something out. Like we'll get you to like a yoga retreat.
Yeah.
Or we'll get you a job in manufacturing. Certainly your phone has to go.
Right.
Like there's no doubt.
Yeah.
You're back to flip phone status for a couple months.
You have to live like Jimmy McGill's brother in Better Call Saul for a year.
Yeah. A year would be a good detox. You wouldn't miss much either. That's the funny thing. Like
talk to your neighbor once.
Yeah. Read a newspaper, maybe.
There should be, as we go forward in society, there should be some sort of criminal or civil sanction in the law that requires you to go back to a flip phone for a certain amount of time. Like, you have done wrong. And part of what we're doing as a society is we feel that you should no longer be allowed to contribute to this public space in this manner. You can still call 911. You can still ask your friends what's up. You can still send a text. You're just going to have to use T9 to do it. And we're not going to let you get online with your phone. If you want to go online, you've got to go home to your computer and like sit down like with your 2-monitor setup.
So a couple of years ago, I went on a trip to Florida with some friends of mine. And it was like, a couple of married couples, and then like my buddy who's who's like got married younger, so he's divorced now, and is kind of like dates, right? So we were with him and his girlfriend was the other person on our trip, and our flight back from I think we did that Allegiant flight out of what's that, like Punta Gorda?
Yeah. Like the $49 one-way special.
Yeah. And it was like crazy delayed. And he's like going through his backpack for something and just like pulling stuff out. And one of the things he pulls out is literally a flip phone. And he has an iPhone. Like, it's just an extra flip phone that he travels with or has on him all the time. And we're like, why do you have a burner phone? Which is funny because like
that is actually a burner phone.
I just call flip phones burner phones, right? Like, it might be your main phone.
Right.
It's just the name for it is burner phone.
Yes.
It's just, he's like, I don't know. You just like need a burner phone sometimes. I'm like, why?
Right. If I had a friend that was bringing a flip phone to Florida, I would be very concerned they were either about to buy cocaine or a human being.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't need to be a part of whatever this person's about to do.
Possibly both.
I guess it's like Gulf Coast, so more likely some prescription drug.
Yeah.
Something old people take, like Percocet or something.
Occasionally hackers get hit with like a parole condition where they can't be on an internet connected device for X number of months or years. Even.
Please.
Yeah, I think more people. I think that should happen to more people. I don't think it should be limited to hackers and pedophiles. I think more people should be hit with the internet device thing.
You ever work with somebody from Europe?
Yeah.
No, I work in the government. I work with people that are barely American.
You send them an email in August and you get like a blast back that's like I'm on vacation for August, sorry.
Yeah.
Or
yeah,
like
it's
if you
so
like
good.
Or if like you email them at like 12:30 p.m. this time, you're lucky if you get an email back. And then what the email back says is like, it's after 5. It's illegal for me to be on my email, actually. I'm just letting you know this one time. Or like Interpol is going to get you for trying to contact me after 5 p.m. We like need that.
It's like a police force and a bunch of like men in berets, very French looking, and they just tackle you if they see you on your phone past 4:55.
Yeah. I one time in the office, I got to live a very real like meme that goes around, which was I got an email back and out of office back from a European colleague. I got the very same thing. It's like, I'm on vacation for 3 weeks. I'll respond to your email then. There's no backup. There's no call if there's an emergency. Just like, I'm out for 3 weeks. I'll talk to you then.
You're on your own.
Later, I got an out of office from a woman that said like, I'm going into surgery in the afternoon. I apologize if I'm a few hours delayed in responding to your email. It's like, yeah, there's the U.S. and Europe right there.
That email also had like the national anthem playing in the background.
I was once in Ireland talking to friends of mine that live there, and one of them was like evaluating an offer in the US. And it was like, it was like a lot more money than she was making in Ireland. She was we all had a chuckle about like, you know, the healthcare benefit or whatever. Right.
Right.
And then she was getting 6 weeks vacation. And the Irish people were so offended. Like they were like, this is a human rights violation. 6 weeks? That's insulting.
Oh, 6 weeks. You got to be in a company for 25 years before you get 6 weeks most places.
Wait till they find out how the Guinness tastes when you get over here.
I was actually with some Canadians. I guess it was last week, and I was at like a work thing that involves some Canadians, and I was talking about going to the hospital, like going to the ER. And I was talking about this time I went to the ER and got into like a big long argument with them because they had like billed me direct without sending it to insurance first, blah, 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 blah. And like what hung them up on was that I went to the ER and got a bill.
Oh, you sweet summer child.
They're like, what do you mean they send you a bill to go to the hospital? Like, yeah.
Wait do they hear about the one you get for being transported to the hospital in the ambulance, man?
Right.
Wait till they like in when like I talked to them about like how much it costs to like have a kid in the US, like I thought they were gonna faint.
Like my favorite ER feature is the person that comes in well before a doctor or a nurse and says, hey, so based on the symptoms we got here, we think it's going to cost you $2,000, but we'll only charge you $1,800 if you prepay right now. Now, granted, this is an estimate, and if it goes over, you're on the hook for the rest of it, but we'll give you a 10% discount, 20% discount if you pay early up front right now before you've talked to a doctor or a nurse.
It's never a good sign that the first piece of equipment you see at the hospital is the machine that has the Apple Pay on it. Now, the real insulting part would be is if the person doing this at the hospital said, okay, it's going to ask you a few questions. It's like, no, I'm not tipping to have my gallbladder removed.
Oh my God. The first time that I get asked to tip at the dentist will be the last time I go.
I'll
just floss more. It'll be fine.
I got hit with one of these. Now, not healthcare. It's sort of the opposite of healthcare. Going through the Arby's drive-through.
I've identified your first problem.
A weak moment in my life earlier this week. Going through the Arby's, and after I
hold on.
Yeah,
before you go, please. Chief, you're judging him going to Arby's.
Yeah.
What's the last fast food place you went to?
What do you define as fast food?
You do, you answer the question.
Not fast casual. I need fast food. Is there a drive-through?
Oh, is there a drive-through? I mean, Taco Bell.
Come on.
That's
Wait,
not
Taco
exactly
Bell's way better
fine
than Arby's.
dining.
Taco Bell's way better than Arby's.
Come on.
No, the Bell is elite level fast food. The only problem with the Bell is it's sneaky expensive. It's not what you remember. Never forget that they took away from us the 59-cent taco. Like
yes.
that was when America was in its greatness.
Absolutely. But I will say Taco Bell has never hit me with one of these. I complete my order, very simple order. And at the end, the lady over the speaker box says, would you like to round up for employee appreciation? I was asked to tip. It was not employee college scholarship fund. It was not employee we're raising money for the local hospital. It was just employee appreciation.
Would you like to round up for the me not spitting in your food fund?
That's really what it is, isn't it? It's a sort of unspoken threat of I will care exactly how much you tip about your food going forward.
What I don't like, I don't think I've seen, I feel like I may have seen this at like one place in Cincinnati. It's more common, and I know I've seen it in the Twin Cities. I know I've seen it in New York. It's the like 15% bonus for like employee healthcare.
Yeah.
I'm like, sure. Right. Like,
right.
Obviously, yes.
Right.
But why don't you just raise your prices?
Raise your price.
15%?
Yeah, that's the part.
Why are you bothering me with this?
Right.
Why like your price should already include it. I feel like you tricked me.
I
feel like you tricked me with how much I thought it was going to be. And then it was a little bit more. And then it's like, well, do you want my employees to have healthcare? I'm like, yes, of course.
And
obviously.
And then tip on top of that.
Sure.
I would like to be the person that goes in and
sucker.
declines on the employee health care. It's like, no, I don't think they should have health care.
You're staring at the waiter.
Hit a gym and eat a salad. No. The tipping culture, though, I'm done with it now. Like, I'm just done with it.
Oh,
I'm done.
Last time I was in Europe, I tried to tip 15% at a place, and it was for extraordinary circumstances.
Okay.
That I'm not going to get into, but it was like really like, I understand, like, it's not like a typically like you tip a bunch at this place. It's just like there was an above and beyond kind of situation, and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go tip 15%. Their machine rejected it. It was too high. They were like, you're legally not allowed to tip this much for me.
That's a bribe. Both of you go to jail if you accept this.
Anyone tipping this much is clearly laundering money for some reason.
It's like true story. It like literally rejected it. I had to tip less to get the charge to go through.
That's incrible.
I'm done. I'm done with the swiveling iPad. I'm done with it's going to ask you a few questions. I just raise my price. Just raise the price. I was thinking about this, you go and you swipe and it's like immediately like 10, 15, 20%. I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be like wondering what the right amount is, or like, like going to get a cup of coffee. Like the place I go to, like sometimes it'll just be at $1. Okay. Yeah. I'm cool with that. But then the minute the price gets over a certain point, then it switches to percents. And I'm like, I don't need to tip 20% here. I'll give you $1.
Right.
I'm sick of it. And we could all just agree not to do it. We could all just agree not to do it.
It's because America is like a scam country. Like, they trick you. Like, everything is a lie. Like I was talking about, like, my friends in Ireland, like they're coming and making more money in the US or whatever. Like, yes, like your salary for the same job in the US is usually more than you make in Europe. Right. But that's just like the number they tell you. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. It's just a number they tell you. The number they tell you is more in the US than it is in England. But like, then after that, it's like, okay, well, like this much goes to like my healthcare. This much goes to like my 401k. This much goes to pay my student loans. This much goes to like rent. This much goes to like eating out and tipping and stuff. Right. Yep. It's just like you pay all these extra things. And it's like, I don't know if I like the amount of money that I'm told I make is a lie.
You will never see that number.
That I get to use is very different.
You need to
than the amount of money that I am told that I make.
You need to double your salary to get your salary, basically.
Right. And we're like, oh, we have like low taxes, but like also you don't get anything.
Right. So you're still on the hook for everything.
Right. So you pay the taxes, but also you pay for all the stuff that other places have taxes pay for.
Right. It's like you pay the taxes and it's like, but all these other people get that for free. What am I getting? It's like, this was sort of brought into like,
I don't want to articulate what you're getting because we may get in trouble.
Yeah. This was
let's say you're getting a safe Balkans.
More or less.
Yeah. You're getting just freedom with a capital F in many places. But no, it was like, did you see the story this week about we have the unused subway lines here in Cincinnati?
Yes.
And the city is soliciting proposals for what to do with the subway. And to me, this is the most obvious. It's like you've asked the question, what should we use the subway tunnels for? And my answer was, I don't know. How about building the fucking subway? Let's do that. And then you start to get into this idea of, okay, maybe it's time that we just sort of like take a step back as a society at all levels of government and just be like, okay, let's look at what we're spending all this money on a little bit, because we've been doing the same thing for so long and just piling thing on top of thing on top of thing. I really just genuinely don't think that most people know or understand where all the money is going to. And if there isn't money available to put a subway in the subway line, maybe we need to figure out a way to make the numbers move to do that, because people are like saying shit like, oh, make it an underground bar or an underground art district. It's like, no,
come on.
We don't need more bars. You know what we need? This isn't Verizon. We don't need more bars and more locations. We need a goddamn subway. How about that?
Yes. And I love the excuse. You'll always hear it. It's like, but there's a fiber optic cable down there.
I don't know. Move it.
This is America, God damn it.
Can we just put the streetcar down there?
Right.
Why didn't we do that in the first place? Like, why was that not an option? Like, that's the thing, too, is we fought about the streetcar, and everyone in this town was like, everyone was at each other's throats about the streetcar. They started building the thing real quick before, Cranley got elected, because they were worried he was going to stop the streetcars. Like, I have never seen city government move faster than they moved to start like digging rail lines to make sure that they could say, oh, we already started it. You'd have to like start ripping these out, during a lame duck mayoral term.
And that kind of worked, because really part of Cranley's like, he put the pause on it to reassess it. And part of it was, well, we've already started a lot of the work. It'd be kind of annoying to stop now. Right.
But like, that was because it was a streetcar.
It's kind of it's the it's the Bay of Pigs gambit, but it worked this time.
Castro is still alive in this timeline.
Where you're like, well, I think the new president is not really behind this plan. Let's just do it. And then I think he's gonna.
The boats are on the beach, President.
I think he'll back it.
What are you going to do? Have him turn around? But if they would have said at the time, it's not only a streetcar, it's the new subway, I think more people would have been excited about it. We wouldn't have had this fighting.
It would, I think, go a long way to curing what ails this city. And it would be, a funny thing in the future of like, well, it took Cincinnati a long time to finish their subway. Not, they got 80% of the way there.
Why does nobody want to build this? I don't understand this.
So here's the thing with the instinct of like, oh, we're going to put like a bar down there or whatever.
Ugh.
I am so over everybody's idea for like what to do with the city being like, oh, we're going to do like an entertainment district.
Right.
We're going to put like in bars and restaurants. We got them. They're
plenty.
Good.
And there's room for more.
Awesome. And there's already room for more, like where the other ones are. And frankly, some of them probably got to get turned over a little bit.
Yeah.
And you'd think like if there was so much demand for new bars and restaurants, some of that turnover would be happening, which I'm not complaining about what we got. Like,
right.
I love the like OTR downtown area. It's where I spend like all of my time. I go weeks without leaving it, to be honest, because it's where I live and I don't have to leave it because finally we have a grocery store there and stuff. But like,
it would be really funny if you spent your time hanging out in Montgomery, living like downtown. It's like, no, we go to the Village Tavern instead. OTR is played out.
Okay, but the instinct to being like, we're going to put like an entertainment district down in the subway or whatever. It's like, no, at some point you have to be like, no, this is not just like a little playground for people who are 22 to 27 years old. This is like a place where people live.
A real place.
We're going to have, like Cincinnati needs to think of itself as a real city that people live in.
It's a playground for the suburbs. If you're out in the outside the 275 ring, downtown is bars, restaurants, hotels, and sporting events and theaters, and that's it. Whereas, like, if you live down there, you'd like more housing.
I want transportation to like get me around. Maybe I wanted to have transportation to get up to Clifton, right?
How dare you?
If the West End gets built out, right? I want to go to the West End or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the amount of time it took to get like a decent grocery store was like insane, and it's like we have a million little boutiques that sell 5 dresses.
That's my favorite genre of store, by the way.
Like you walk up to these stores, you're like, oh, you have literally 5 dresses. Each
and
of them
nobody's ever in it.
And you have
like no one's
size.
ever shopping in there.
You have one size of each
Right.
of them. So like if somebody comes in and likes this dress, the odds that they are also the person who's like the size of that garment that you have in the store is, I'm not running the numbers. I'm not a mathematician here, but I gotta say it's like it can't be high.
Right.
Right. This is not an idea, or this is like where the idea is this is a self-sustaining business that sustains itself through like quantity of sales. It's a nice thing that is pleasant to look at from the street.
So it's like
that gives you like an illusion that this is a particular kind of neighborhood.
Right.
Right.
So is the goal of Cincinnati's urban development right now just to create Midwest Las Vegas, where there's like a strip, like the strip in Vegas, nobody lives there. The only place that people that go there are tourists or people bringing in friends from out of town. Like, is that the goal now with all this stuff? Is that it's a place that is there
God.
just for the people visiting? And
there's a gourmet popcorn store. I've never seen a person in this place.
That's the most Portland shit.
I assumed it would be gone. Like, I guess they must make money somehow.
Chief, I've got the answer. We complete the subway, but the subway is actually the name of the underground roller coaster in downtown Cincinnati. That's right. It's just all going to be owned by Cedar Fair. You're going to love it.
Let's put the reverse racer in the subway tunnel.
It goes backwards. That's great. That's perfect.
you joke, but my sister got my nephew excited to ride the roller coasters at Disney. Got him excited to ride Space Mountain by telling him it was a train because he's obsessed with vehicles. It's like, no, you don't understand. It's a train ride. And he had the best time as soon as it was like pitched to him that way.
A train. I like it.
Kids love trains.
Kids love vehicles. Just love vehicles.
You know
Trains,
what's funny?
Buses.
Kids love trains, but also like adults love trains. And my evidence for this is there's a train in every movie. And I think that's weird. Like every movie has a train. It's a pivotal train scene. You need a cool action scene. It's a goddamn train. Somebody's running on a train. Somebody's climbing under a train. You're jumping through the train. It's all trains. It's all trains all the way down.
That's just because because you can't open the cabin door and like have a climactic chase on the outside of the airplane or a scene on the outside of the airplane. Unless it's a Boeing, in which case the door just comes off anyway.
True.
And there's some dramatic license there.
I like 310 to Yuma.
Great movie.
Literally about a train.
Both versions, really good movies.
Yeah, the remake is better than the original, I think.
Ooh.
I agree. Although I don't think that it's different, right?
Right.
I don't think that the actors in the remake are as charming as the actors in the original. Like the original's like got kind of a lightheartedness to it that the remake doesn't match. But like planes are always like going, they're brand names, right? Like Delta 500 or whatever. And they're always going to like major cities. But it used to be like there's something different about being like, I'm on the 310 to Yuma.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels so, I don't know.
Quaint?
I don't know. Yes. Quaint.
Civilized. So so do you think that we get more momentum behind no bar?
Also, it was a funny bit the other day. What was they were saying like the late train to Southampton was canceled. There was like some soccer game.
Yeah.
And it was like Southampton versus somebody. And they were like, it was like a prank by the announcer that like the late train to Southampton was canceled. Very funny bit. Very funny.
So do you think that we would get more momentum behind restarting the subway if we would then say you can take the 310 to St. Bernard or the 310 to Norwood?
Ooh,
I would love to take the 310 to St. Bernard. Would love to.
Yeah. We're taking the 310 to St. Bernard and we're getting hammered at Wiedemann's. And you know what? We're not driving to get there, so everything's okay. Wood. Straight up wood.
Which I should mention, Wiedemann's should have made the the brewery.
Yeah,
a lot.
that was a miss on our part.
I've had Wiedemann's beer, but I've never been to Wiedemann's.
It's an old funeral home right in the middle of St. Bernard by the old Chili Time right there.
R.I.P. Chili Time.
R.I.P. Rest in peace. Love you, miss you. But it's very weird. It's got like there's multiple different rooms, and getting to the inside where the bar is, it always feels like you're going the wrong way, no matter which way you walk in. Beer is great though. The Wheaty Lager or the Wheaty Light is really, really good. I just want the Subway, man. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I do believe this. I do believe that this city will never reach everything that you think is wrong with Cincinnati will be solved the second the Subway is built. Like
Imagine having Sundance Film Festival in Cincinnati and having a picture of like Gwyneth Paltrow on the subway in Cincinnati.
So good.
Could be here. It could be us.
It could be us.
You lean into the Art Deco, have like neon clocks at every station. Oh, it'd be so nice.
Yeah, like that, and that's the point about the taxes. That's what I want my taxes to do. Like I want my taxes to have to make the trains run on time, and in order for that to happen, I need trains. And yeah, I want some. Let's invest in some more Art Deco signage. Let's have some clocks around town. Let's get some like cool like things that you only see in movies or like in cities that like are fictional. Let's put some of that shit up. Let's have some fun with it.
We got to get the Imperial Theater back.
Yeah,
build that up. That's a must. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolute mandatory. Well, I mean, if the Cincinnati subway is like the legend we're looking to have come back to life, I think we have to pay our respects to Pete Rose.
Do we?
I mean,
I was saying. So here's the problem, right? I pointed out. I think made a pretty airtight case that all of our sporting woes in the city can be traced directly to failing to, dump Pete Rose when it was time to do so. And now it's probably too late, right?
Oh, it's done.
Unless you do a Bin Laden, like dump his body at sea type thing.
I don't think the family will let us.
Can we put his body where like the Ludlow Bromley Yacht Club used to be? Or where that Jeff Birding floating restaurant was?
What about like the
Jeff
how
Ruby?
like in the Ruby. It was Jeff Ruby's. It was the waterfront.
I had to really sit there and think about that for a second.
So did I. I was like, I bet
Jeff Birding ate there at least one time.
I was going to let that one slide, but I was like, wait a minute, no. There are some religions. I think Mormonism is the number one where they will baptize people posthumously into the Mormon faith.
Yes.
If they can do that, surely we can find some religion that can kind of do the opposite.
Yeah, opposite. whatever the opposite is.
Whatever the opposite is of the Mormon baptism for Pete Rose. Just to make sure, that it's
what it is he can still be canceled.
Okay.
Like you can still cancel culture him.
Right. That's true.
Which is the opposite of Mormonism. Like we canceled Christopher Columbus.
Oh, right. I was going to say, can you cancel after death? But Columbus is a good
we've
example.
Canceled Andrew Johnson.
Yeah.
True.
We've canceled Thomas Jefferson.
Jefferson Davis.
Feels like
canceled various. He was canceled and uncanceled and canceled again.
So he was canceled pretty publicly back in the 1860s.
Maybe you could suggest he wasn't canceled enough back then.
And
that's part of the problem with society a little bit.
Stonewall Jackson.
Could have used a little more canceling.
Could have used
Robert E. Lee.
Canceled some more. Oh, dude, I've been to his grave. He needs to be canceled hard.
Yeah.
Did you know that
his grave is too nice?
Did you know there's a shrine to Stonewall Jackson's arm in Virginia? Like his arm is buried separately from the rest of him. It's prominently displayed on the highway that you can exit here for the Stonewall Jackson Arm Memorial.
Do you think it's really his arm?
It's like a lot of early
Catholic relics. Who would make that up? Like, who would make that up?
I've been to a lot of relics, and it's like
this is a shard of the
relic.
cross.
It's like, like a traveling tradesman brought St. Helens hand to this town. Right. I'm like, did he?
He just had some hands.
He just say it. Like, did you look for like a chain of title, or did you do a DNA test in 1275?
This is where NFTs would have been useful.
Yeah, this is where the blockchain would have been helpful. Right. The blockchain would have helped us like authenticate some relics over a period of time.
The grave of Stonewall Jackson's arm, located in Locust Grove, Virginia. Boy, does that sound like a lovely place. Locust Grove.
Appropriately named.
And so I went to like a house that, so I went to a place that was billed as Stonewall Jackson's house.
Okay.
In Lexington, Virginia, where I think it's where Washington and Lee University is. And first of all, it was a place he lived for like a year when he taught at VMI.
Love that.
Like,
it's very Cincinnati of them just to claim a person that was only there for 1 year.
But the woman who led the tour was like this Australian, or I want to say Australian lady, maybe English, who wrote a book about him called Old Jack. And she kept calling him like Old Jack. And I'm like, man, like being like an Australian who gets like so into Stonewall Jackson that you like move to Lexington, Virginia and like write a book about him, make up a pet name for him and like talk to about him like you're like he's your friend.
Yeah.
She has a body pillow.
That should be a book. Like, it should be like that.
She should also be forced to have the flip phone. She should not be allowed on the internet.
It's like this is like Last King of Scotland type stuff, but like
that's not good.
I kind of want to do that. I kind of want to just pick some random historical figure from some other country and really get into that person. Like,
but they have to be like problematic.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the house of that Hungarian lady that like in the Middle Ages, like killed and drank the blood of like hundreds of young women and just be like, I find this lady interesting. I think she has a nice house. And I'm just going to like kind of talk about her fondly.
I call her Miss Whimsy. That's
my wife has ixnayed me multiple times on. So we watched this documentary on Netflix a few years ago called Wild Wild Country.
I heard of it.
The Rajneeshs in Oregon, who were led by this cult leader. He was called the Bhagwan, and I've been low key obsessed with the Bhagwan since watching this. And I found this bootleg T-shirt shop that will sell like a Bhagwan T-shirt, and I've been really close to ordering it while drunk multiple times. And every time my wife has put the kibosh on it because she's like, people won't think you're just being funny. They'll think that you're like honoring a cult leader. It's like, so
I did like a free yoga this morning, and like, you never know what you're going to get. Right. Like it's always a crapshoot. But this lady at one point was explaining, she's like, oh, I do my flows like a little differently. I studied a tradition of yoga called whatever, by yoga so-and-so, and yogi so-and-so, like, had this kind of flow and it's supposed to do this things and
so we like Yogi Eminem with his flow,
right? So we did like the different type of flow or whatever, and she's like, and actually he would call this just halfway, and like it's like, lady, I don't want to know about like your random cult yogi, like I don't want to know. I don't like. I understand you think this guy is like charming, and I'm sure if you described, I'm sure you've had very colorful interactions with him, but I just don't want to know. Like I'm just here to, like, I just need to stretch my hammy,
Did she hand out pamphlets or leaflets afterwards? She's doing a little recruiting.
Come to this informational meeting where we can discuss how you can protect your finances from the upcoming apocalypse.
Oh God. But Pete, just to bring it all the way back, well, I just want to make sure we are firmly a you can't separate the artist from their music podcast.
I think you can't. I think you can.
I'm just saying we're all ready to.
I still like Diddy.
Oh my God.
The artist
that song he did with Jimmy Page.
Oh, gross. He never made good solo music.
I thought that Mo Egger had like a really good take on this. I pulled his tweet up on this, and I thought this was the best take on it. It was, Pete Rose means a lot to a lot of people in this city. You may understand why, you may not understand why, but he does, for better or worse. Whatever the second half of his life came to represent, and it's made his legacy deeply complex. Pete is identified more than anyone with a period of time in Cincinnati that still means a bunch to a whole lot of people here, and a part of a lot of people's youth just passed. I thought that was probably the most measured take on the whole Pete Rose situation, because it's kind of like, yeah, I don't get it, but also he played before my time, and the only part of Pete Rose I know is him getting perp walked after tax evasion, and then just being kind of a stain on the city's reputation for the majority of my adult lifetime. And he's from an era of the Reds where that was really frequent. Like, I associate Pete in large parts with Marge Schott, of just people who were connected to this team that just made it a walking punchline, which, to be fair, the current owners have also done, but at least, you know, for their utter mismanagement on the field and not horrendously racist and otherwise incredibly problematic things they did.
Okay, but is there a more useful Immaculate Grid answer than Pete Rose?
He's pretty useful.
Hit 300 and played this position. Oh, Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, easy.
Stole this many bases, had this many hits. Pete Rose.
Pete Rose.
200, 30 stolen bases and 200 hits. Let's go.
Every time.
I really did enjoy too the intersection of politics and sports, where
always enjoy that.
was the vice presidential candidate Tim Walz posted a tribute to Pete Rose, but made sure to include him in the Phillies uniform because Pennsylvania definitely a swing state in this election.
That's hilarious.
Did JD Vance tweet?
Oh no, it was JD Vance. It wasn't Walz. It was JD Vance that tweeted it. I'm sorry, completely.
Because you know what he didn't tweet
wrong
about?
Vice presidential candidate there.
you know what JD Vance didn't tweet about?
Was
that? Joey Votto's retirement.
Damn.
And maybe just hates Canadians. Be kind of on brand.
He's pro two walls.
If JD Vance really tweeted a picture of Pete Rose in a Phillies uniform, I would question if he actually knew that Pete Rose played for the Reds.
It's all about those swing state votes, babe.
I was going to say, I would question whether or not his social media management team knew that Pete Rose played for the Reds, or they heard prominent Phillies player passed away. That's because they're like living on.
I don't see a JD Vance tweet of Pete Rose. Where was this?
Was it on the official campaign? They probably have like 4 Twitter feeds these days.
Well, either way, it was funny.
I like.
Maybe I was duped by social media once again. It happens to the best of us.
Were they verified?
I mean, that doesn't take much.
You know what probably did the verification in is there was a company that was selling verified checkmark plaques to put on your house if you were verified on Twitter.
I don't think I've told this story before on the podcast, but I worked for months to get someone verified. Like for an account that I was quasi responsible for managing.
Yeah.
I worked for months to make that happen. And finally we got the email and the blue check mark that this individual was a verified account. And not less than 30 days later, they switched to the paid verification model. I was incensed. It had taken so long to get through to someone that was a human being to be like, no, I assure you this person is a person of note,
right,
who should have their account verified.
This is not
really
a
matters.
I found the JD Vance tweet. He did tweet a picture of Pete Rose in a Phillies uniform. In his defense, you don't see it's a black and white photo and you don't see the name of the jersey
But it's pinstripe
on the
right?
photo. It just has a black stripe down the side.
Okay.
But it's black and white, so that could be like a red stripe in the right.
Gotcha.
Like, I don't know. Whatever. Crucify him. I don't care.
It wasn't a big old P on top of his hat.
You know what Pete Rose doesn't get enough credit for?
He is kind of
somehow
Wolverine
managing
hair in this photo.
Well, I was about to say, Pete Rose had the worst haircut of all time, I think, for a sports figure.
Definitely up there with like Mark Davis.
It's the same haircut. Right?
Yeah, no, it's like a Lego person haircut.
Or Kathy Geis.
There's a point where I don't know. How do you decide on that hairstyle? You don't walk into a barber and trust him.
No, you walk into a barber and trust him way too much to walk out with that haircut.
That's a good point. You have a shit barber you trust way too much.
That's where you walk into the barber shop with someone that you've never met before. Like you're not an existing client. You're being squeezed in between two other appointments. You put $20 down on the table. Go fuck me up, fam.
That'd be a good fantasy football punishment.
I was about to say the same thing. That like you have to wear a Pete Rose haircut for the entire next season would be your fantasy football punishment.
Oof.
Dude, I've had the fortune of explaining to my wife Marge Schott.
Oh boy.
Just the whole deal.
That's
with somebody like not from the city who like vaguely understands that they had like a bad owner back in the day, but you come here and it's like she's beloved. And I'm like, well, you know, everybody's grandma from the West Side said Hitler was good at first.
There's some families where you're like, when they say grandpa served in World War II, you've got to be like, which side?
Yeah, where was grandpa?
It's just a thing you hear. They don't mean it. Or they do mean it, but they don't know enough to like know how to mean it.
Right.
The closest comparison is probably like in the World Wrestling Federation back in the day when Bret Hart was a hated heel everywhere, except when they went to Canada. And then it was just the returning hero coming home to glory to teach those ignorant Americans a thing or two about good Canadian wrestling. And so this man who was getting booed out of every arena in the lower 48 all of a sudden is coming into deafening ovations. They're just like, well, I guess our stories are done for the night.
Doesn't quite play here.
I had a friend that actually managed to get Marge Schott before she kicked to sign a copy of the Sports Illustrated article about her, which apparently she never did. And he has that framed in his house.
Wow. That's fun.
This is shameful. Okay. This is shame. I understand this is shameful.
Okay.
But I have very fond feelings towards Marge Schott.
Oh, no.
Were you one of the kids that got tickets from her back in the day?
No, but close. So there was a day that like we went to a Reds game when I was like, when my sister and I were little, and we, you know, the game, I guess the game didn't go well because we went down to the blue seats, and my dad spotted Marge Schott sitting in the blue seats, like on the end of the row. So he sent me and my sister down with like a piece of paper with our tickets actually to get Marge Schott's autograph. And she was like very pleasant. She asked us what church we went to. She gave the autograph. She like talked to us for a little bit. And and like I remember like being a little older and hear my dad tell this story, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, these two blonde kids come and talk to her. You know, she loved that." And, like not quite getting it.
I used to live for the back in the day. You could listen to Gary Burbank on 700 WLW, and he had a Marge Schott impersonator that would call in every so often. It was the funniest shit, man. Just hacking up along like she was in the middle of a 10-pack day.
You know, she did keep the hot dogs cheap, though.
Right.
And so
This is the point, too, where we tell our younger listeners the blue seats is a way of explaining. In the old Riverfront Stadium, they color-coded what level of seat you were allowed to sit in by on how much money you were willing to pay. And the blue seats were the premium seats down in the lower level.
Those were nice.
Where you occasionally had to sneak down into them if the game wasn't going so well or the season wasn't going so well.
Yeah, moving from red to blue in like the 6th or 7th inning was always a treat. That was,
the yellow were nice because they had pads.
They had the pads.
Yellow was kind of like the club seat, but there weren't very many of them.
It was hard to get into the yellow. The blue, you had to sneak by the ushers that were on those rampways that went down.
Yeah.
That was always a trick, was trying to find when like the ushers were distracted or being confident enough when you were walking to just be like, no, I know where I'm going. It's okay.
Yeah.
My parents have green seats in their backyard.
Nice. I was going to say the green were like the hardest to get to because it wasn't clear where they were.
And like hitting like a red. I remember there used to be like a tally of players who had hit red seat home runs.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was a period of time where like George Foster was the only person who had hit multiple red seat home runs.
Then a thing called steroids came around and all of a sudden, did you ever get top 6 tickets back in the day?
Yep.
$5 get into the ballpark for the top 6 rows of the stadium.
Yep.
We used to do that all the time. It's happy memories growing up.
Oh, damn.
What an old ballpark, man. Great.
I mean, apparently it was awful to play on. So.
Oh, yeah, no, it was just straight concrete with a pad on it, apparently. Like just wrecking knees left and right.
Oh, man. Well, hey, the Reds do have a new manager. We should probably mention this. Yep. Terry Francona, welcome home. Speaking of people that lived here for 1 year.
Former Red,
1987. Who can forget?
All right. So this may be a controversial question. I'm going to ask this.
They call him Old Frank.
Is there so you have all the major sports.
Yes.
Is there a sport where who your manager is matters less than baseball?
Look, I've been in my various group chats about this. If somebody can tell me like what David Bell did wrong, I'm all ears, because like if you're going to tell me that it's all about like motivating the players, why would you not just hire like a motivational speaker
like Jameis Winston or something like that?
Right. Like it doesn't matter. And like I guess there was like, oh, but they got to do double switches. Well, not anymore. First off, and second off, like a high school baseball coach can manage that. So like don't act like it's this great skill that can't be undone. I think it's
tough. I think it's tough. Like there's a reason that like Terry Francona has like not won less than 70 games in like 20 years.
Picking opportunities better than most people.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe,
working
but he got the jobs. And like
Boston, one of the wealthiest teams in the league.
And then Cleveland for a long time.
And then Cleveland, sure, did a good job.
And they were good. They were good in Cleveland.
Was he managing their World Series team where they almost beat the Cubs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sorry,
and
Mark.
He hasn't finished like lower than third.
Yeah.
Like since his first job at the Phillies.
I would love to know. I'm genuinely ignorant as to what a baseball manager is doing.
I don't know that like anybody could like sit down and be like, oh yeah, they do these 5 things. Right. But there are baseball managers who have better track records than others. And like Dusty Baker was like very successful.
Yeah, but that wasn't my question. My question was, is there a sport where the manager, who is in charge matters less than baseball?
I mean, I don't know that the coach is like the number one thing in any sport, but it does matter. Like it does matter.
I guess, but by the same token, it's like David Bell wasn't the reason David Bell didn't win games is because they didn't invest in a bullpen. Sure. And they had starting pitchers keep getting hurt.
Yeah. Right. And what makes me excited about Terry Francona isn't just like the name Terry Francona, right?
It's a great name.
They must have made certain promises to him.
That's the important part
about how they were going to run the team under his tutelage. And that like whatever made Terry Francona accept the job is what gives me hope about him managing the Reds.
You know what's interesting about them making promises to him is this would be the hardest time for them to make promises because they just got dumped by their TV provider this week too. Because Bally Sports or whatever, the controlling, AI chatbot that runs the sports channel conglomerate there, just announced that the Reds and 11 other major league teams are being dropped from their broadcast coverage. Like the network was going broke as it was.
It's slightly weirder than that, and you can see the weasel words. They are opting out of the current contract. So these teams will be able to renegotiate a new contract. So if you're assuming that this means no more Bally's, probably not.
Well, why would they ever sign a contract with Bally again? I mean, part of the deal is that like I haven't watched a Reds game in years because it's so damn hard to do without a cable subscription. Yeah. Like if you're the Reds and you go back to Bally and it's like, oh yeah, no, you're only available on DirecTV and Spectrum. Like it's terrible business. There's no chance that they won't do something different that at least accounts and allows people to buy a package or do something that streams these games on television because Bally pulled away from every streaming service.
Do you think an over-the-air would be willing to do it? Like if WKRC was just like, fuck it.
They can't. Like they used to do that. Like Channel 5, WLWT back in the 80s used to be the place that you watched a select number of Reds games up until I think Sports Channel in the mid 90s was a cable company that was like a precursor of a couple different other like Fox Sports, I think. But up until that in the mid 90s, only about 15 or so Reds games per year were televised. And it was a big deal for the Reds to be on TV. And it was on WLWT. And the reason why it was so hard to televise them is that TV stations that are over the air, they have to pay an enormous penalty if they preempt national programming for local programming. I don't know if that's still the case. I would imagine it is with just the way that the broadcast works differently. But like there would be nothing stopping like the CW, I guess, from doing that. Or if like there was a UHF or an independent that wanted to do it. I think it's far more likely that MLB says for these teams, take the rights in house.
I've got the solution. We crowdsource it, but we get our PBS station to buy the Reds broadcast rights. Come on, we put it on the streaming app. It's free over the air. It's publicly owned at that point. We could move all the broadcasts over to NPR. It'd be really funny.
You imagine
something. What if JD Vance promises that all the money that they raise from all the increased productivity and income that we get from the tariffs gets pumped into the Reds?
Now
Kevin,
we're talking.
Your vote moving here. We're going to make the Reds great, and Mexico will pay for the Reds to get better.
As long as I don't have to pay for the Reds to get better, well, I'm all in. Whatever that solution is.
Terry Francona heard this pitch, and he was like, I'm uncomfortable, but I'm in.
I'm in. I might not make it through my first season, but I'm in. The man's got some health issues.
Don't talk about mass deportation now in the clubhouse around some of the ball players.
Yeah. Speaking of health issues and coaches, I do want to plug for a show that is not good.
Oh yes,
not
I know
good.
Exactly where you're going.
Not good by any means. But American Sports Story, the Aaron Hernandez story.
Yes.
It has the first 3 episodes. Urban Meyer is a prominent character.
Good.
And for all of the flaws of this show, the Urban Meyer character is enthralling. The performance is incredible. Like he's so good. Like the Urban Meyer specifically on that show is really good. There has been in the last episode a little bit of a glimpse at Belichick.
Yeah.
And it gives me some hope that it's going to be at least a bit silly.
I saw the Robert Kraft actor, and I was like, I'm instantly in on this show, immediately.
He's a lot. I could have just had Vince McMahon play
this
that role.
This is a man that goes to rub and tugs. Like, I'm completely bought in on this right now.
That's the one thing they knew.
He doesn't look that much like Rob Kraft, but he feels like Rob Kraft.
There's a vibe. It would be incredible if every so often, like, he's not available. Mr. Kraft is never available between 4 and 5. And it's just they never address why in the show, but
oh man. Do the what's the next story that should be done in this sort of like?
Well, they've already done O.J. Simpson and American Crime Story, which was legitimately really good.
Right.
But who's the next athlete they should do?
Yeah.
Bruce Jenner.
Oh, no, it's got to be Barry Bonds, right?
That's a good one. Barry Bonds is a good one.
Or do it like Bonds, Sosa, and McGuire, and do it like all three of them at the same time.
That's what you got to do.
And like Sammy Sosa is turning whiter as it goes along.
Changes actors every episode.
I think Lance Armstrong.
Lance would be good.
One. Would be a good one. I hate to say it, but Pete Rose. You can be very campy with Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Little known Art Schlichter, former quarterback from Ohio State.
Art Schlichter. He's not. I don't think he's well known enough. But Art Schlichter.
It's a great story though. You know, he was the starting quarterback of the Cincinnati Rockers in the Arena Football League back when we had an arena team.
You could make like a. You ever see The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke?
Oh yeah, great movie.
Great movie. You could make a like The Wrestler kind of movie with Art Schlichter.
Oh, no doubt. Like, that's one of those stories too, where truth is absolutely stranger than fiction with that dude. You know who else would be another one good on that note would be Maurice Claret would be another interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ricky Williams.
I don't know if there's enough to work with Maurice Claret.
Yeah. So was he tied up with the Israeli mob for a while?
With Ricky Williams, right? That's an opportunity to like go outside of facts, right? Like, because Ricky Williams was like, oh, I'm going to go like to Nepal and walk the mountains for a while, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like you could have like you could like really like let your imagination run with what Ricky Williams was doing
what he was
during
actually
his
doing.
hiatus. Right?
I mean,
he could be like a Batman type thing.
He's training at a temple with ninjas. Yes.
You're not far off of what I think Ricky Williams was up to. I think he was actually just getting stoned with like various religious figures around the world. What about Aaron Rodgers on an ayahuasca retreat? Like he offers an episode where it can just be surrealist.
Aaron Rodgers is so annoying.
Which would make it that would make it a great show though, because he is such an unlikable prick.
Surely this has to exist and I've just missed it. A Manti Te'o story.
Yeah, they did that on ESPN 30 for 30, I think.
Okay, but not a dramatized. Okay.
Did we ever talk about the fact that
Danny
I really
McBride could do like an Aaron Rodgers type thing?
Did we ever talk about the fact that I think Manti Te'o's girlfriend, that whole story was just a viral marketing campaign for the MTV show Catfish? Because like,
I like that.
Because it happened and like all of a sudden the world was clued into what the term catfish was. And wouldn't you know it, there is this movie called Catfish that had just come out and MTV is about to have a show called Catfish. So if you're interested in this whole thing, now we have a product to sell you right here.
Oh, I like that. I like that. That's my headcanon now. I'm in.
You know who does need a series about him? And it can't be Ryan Murphy, because Ryan Murphy is like campy and like irreverent and tabloid, right? It has to be somebody with like some like tact or somebody with some ability to like
nuance
to like do justice to it. But like Josh Gibson, I think is worthy of a series. Because just such like an interesting, but also an interesting like flawed real person, you know, who is also great, right? And that's like the greatness is what draws you in, but like the humanity and all the different stuff that's going on is what keeps you like, you know, watching week to week.
Yeah.
It really is. It does underline the point, though, that sports really are reality television as much as they are athletic competition.
Yes.
And like, it was funny. We were talking about this in the Discord a little bit, was this idea of the NFL changing its media access policy to get cameras, or the NFLPA requesting that the media policy be changed to get cameras out of the locker room. And so, you know, make the locker room like a sacred sort of safe space for players, which, you know, I get it. Like, I forget who it was. I think it was maybe Jason Kelsey that got caught hanging dong in the background of an interview.
It's many guys.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
a lot of guys. But also it's like the raw like takes that you get based on the fact that the camera is in a place where there are grown men naked and they're in like this sort of vulnerable space. If it wasn't for cameras in the locker room, think how many incredible quotes we wouldn't have gotten over the course of years in the NFL. Okay. And like, that's what keeps the sport going. That's what keeps a lot of these sports going, is that like unfiltered access of, oh, this is really cool. Otherwise, you're waiting for these same moments to occur in the wild. And there's only so many times that T.O. can do sit-ups in his driveway. Like, that doesn't happen all the time. Right. Like when you're outside the locker room.
So what about this? Okay, because I understand, and I think it's weird that like reporters get to just like walk around the locker room.
The second you question it, it sort of falls apart.
I know it's like a longstanding tradition among many American sports. You know, it's a thing in MLS that like they only recently got locker room access, and a lot of like foreign players are like, well, no.
Yeah, what the hell is this?
Yeah. They like see a report of the locker room, like, what are you doing here? Right. Because it's not a thing that necessarily happens in other countries. But I understand that, you know, we're the greatest country in the world and everything we do is the best. So it's definitely something that should be on the table of continuing. And, you know, Chief, the point you make about like the unguarded spur of the moment quotes that you get is a good one. So what if we offered this trade to the players? We said, okay, we'll get reporters out of the locker room, but you have to let them in the champagne room.
I think most of the writers would make that trade.
Or no, not only are we not getting reporters out of the locker room, because you asked, you insolent jerks, we're adding them into the shower as well.
Yeah, right.
It's
what else
more
are
opportunities.
Yeah.
I think more access is better, because like I like finding out that these people have bad takes, and anything that we can do to get athletes off this scripted, messaged persona, which is what is all this is about. This is about now that many athletes have realized I can take my story directly to social media. I can tell my own story. I can do my own branded content. The NHL just dropped this video of the locker room, where I saw it for the first time, of the locker room after the Oilers lost the Stanley Cup. And Connor McDavid is crying like back there. And you can hear over the loudspeaker him being announced as winning the MVP of the Stanley Cup Finals while he's weeping in his own arms. Then finally someone yells, "Get that fucking camera out of here," and the footage goes dead. That's compelling stuff. And that goes back to this like idea that we started with about Gawker and the old internet and stuff like that. This is all a product of the new internet, where 10 years ago, 15 years ago, athletes didn't have the ability to tell their story unless there was a reporter they could talk to who would put it out there in public. And now they have the Players Tribune. If they want to write something, they have their own social media feed with their own video production people and their own content production people. You know, every athlete is starting a podcast these days to talk about whatever it is they want. And I think sports becomes less interesting when the only thing we're getting is propaganda on all sides, where it's team propaganda from the team website. If it's athlete propaganda from the athlete's own feed that's carefully curated to make sure they're always shown in the best possible light. I think that what made all these sports popular, especially the NFL, is that there are reporters in places that are uncomfortable, and they hear when uncomfortable shit gets said, and then that gives all of us something to chew on for the next 5 days or 6 days between games.
Well, that's a true observation for sure. Where it's like more access doesn't mean better access, right? So like hearing more from players doesn't mean that you get more accurate information. Like players going out and having their own podcasts, or like, like the leak journalists that are out there, that like the Shams and the Waj and whatever, that like get a lot of stuff directly from teams that they're not giving to the beat reporters. It's spin, right?
Yeah,
it's PR. Right. It's people giving you what they want you to hear. It's not the unguarded, spur of the moment, like accidental truth bomb.
Right.
Right. A Waj bomb is not a truth bomb.
Right.
And he
retired, didn't he, just now?
Yeah, I think he did. But
what he kind of took over the athletic director role, or like is managing the.
Which should tell you how awful being one of these gossip mongers and these rumor mongers and these newsbreakers is, where he was like, what sounds like a much easier gig? Dealing with NIL.
Saint Bonaventure, or the Bonnies is where he's like running their basketball program now.
But it is like you're not getting like better information just because you're getting more information. And I think that with a lot of stuff you see like, oh, well, this player said this directly. Right. Okay.
Their ghostwriter wrote it on the Players Tribune for them. Yeah.
Like maybe, but you still have to evaluate like,
yes,
do I credit this? And like, I do credit, to be fair, like I do credit the spur of the moment response more so than like what the PR team put on the Players Tribune, or what somebody, quote unquote, leaked to a friendly reporter.
Yeah.
The excited utterance, if you will, and the inherent reliableness of said excited utterance.
Look, I'm fine with getting cameras out of the locker room, but please, for the love of God, don't take Dave Lapham out of the locker room with his little tape recorder.
Do you remember like when the team was horse shit? The Dave Lapham interviews in the locker room where it would be all quiet. It's like, all right, we're down here in the locker room. It's very somber as the Bengals fall again, 56-10 to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to try and get someone over here that can talk about this. Fontes, you accounted for 4 personal foul penalties. Those were tough, man. Talk about how you feel you were officiated in this game and what you think you can do to not be a psychopath on the field the next time.
Dave Lapham in the locker room. Maybe Dave is the only reporter allowed in the locker room. That's all I want. Just preserve that for me.
Joe Nuxall used to do that too on the Reds broadcast back in the day. Joe would leave the broadcast booth in like the 9th inning, and he would go down and he would interview players in the locker room after the game. They took that away from us too.
Damn. And they took Joe Nuxall away from us.
Well, tough scenes.
Well, yeah, you mentioned Bengals losing. Should we talk about this?
They have to fire Zach Taylor, right?
If not Taylor, it's got to be
Taylor's got to fire
coordinator.
Yeah, Taylor has to be proactive and fire Lou Amarino or whatever his name is, because that's how you save your job as a head coach. Is the first number one thing you do to save your job as a head coach is you find a scapegoat. Yes. That's him. You fire him.
Easy.
Step 2 is if the offense starts sputtering, you give up play calling duties. That buys you at least another couple of weeks before the vultures start circling in. But you know what I would do if there was this team? I'm not a Bengals fan. I saw the same movie as Bengals fans on Thursday night.
There was a little twist there, though.
Let me tell you, I feel your pain on this one. The only benefit that you had that I didn't is you didn't have to watch fucking Kirk Cousins like acting a fool on the field trying to dance to the music that was playing as your team walked off in crushing defeat.
Yeah.
If I were the Bengals right now,
Talk to me.
I would hire Bill Belichick.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
I would fire Zach Taylor and I would hire Bill Belichick.
There's no other option. Like,
there's so many reasons
he'll come, do it.
How many other just free agents are floating around out there that can do a competent job at coaching and GMing? Like, I know people are going to say he fell off or whatever, but like his defenses were still top tier after Brady left. And you're giving him Joe Burrow.
Right. That's the thing, is he fell off because Tom Brady left the Patriots and went to the Buccaneers.
Hard to replace quarterbacks. It's a tough league without a good quarterback.
And you know what you're giving him? You're giving him basically younger Tom Brady again. It's like, here, mold this man in your image.
He made the playoffs with a broken shell of himself, Cam Newton. All right. Like, the man still can work some magic. He made Ryan Mallett and Jimmy Garoppolo and all these other guys look good well.
He made Matt Castle a lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah. Matt Castle, who had never started a game until Brady blew his knee out in that first week of that season. Like,
made the playoffs. They won like 13 games or whatever.
You're lying to me if you don't think that Bill Belichick coming into this team and being like, it would immediately fix things.
Like, how many times in a sport do you have the opportunity? Now, granted, this is like if he would come and all that jazz, but like, do you have the opportunity to then go hire the literal best to ever do it? Like, that opportunity doesn't come up all that often. And he's publicly out there saying he wants another job. He wants to work in the NFL. He went around interviewing at a lot of teams that were a lot worse than the Bengals the last 2 years.
And you know what would be great too? Is, you know how you announce this hire? You just have him say, we're on to Cincinnati.
Oh,
it's
so good.
Well, first of all, he's willing to work in Ohio.
Yes.
Coach the Cleveland Browns.
Second of all, just let him write his ticket. Let him bring his staff, right? Like, just
maybe not Josh McDaniels.
Probably not Josh McDaniels.
I would just ask that he stop hiring Josh McDaniels.
Bring
Josh
Vrabel
McDaniels
in or
is
something.
clearly fine as an assistant.
Yeah, but
you bring McDaniel. I don't even care. Bring Josh McDaniel and Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's your defensive coordinator. He's looking for work.
Yep.
Josh McDaniel's your offensive coordinator. Just fly them in right now, and let's get this party started. Like, how much worse can it get in terms of, like,
it's an expensive coaching staff, but like, come on, like you've already spent so much money to keep Joe Burrow in town.
Yeah, you can't waste it.
You can't waste it.
And also, you're not going to be able to keep T. Higgins around past this year. This is your last year with Higgins and Chase together on the same team. You gotta throw a Hail Mary on this one, I think.
You gotta think that Belichick would be able to come in again with his staff and immediately stabilize the defense, right? Like, the offense is fine, more or less, as is. I don't know. As a Bengals fan, there's no way you can be above this, right? You don't look at Belichick and go, no, I want to see how far Zach Taylor can ruin his reputation.
Yeah,
I would take Joe Gibb.
Is Joe Gibbs alive?
Would you take John Gruden, though?
Yes.
Speaking of
Joe
problematic legacy.
He's 83 years old.
Joe Gibbs is alive? Okay, good.
Yep, he's alive.
Thought you were going to tell me John Gruden was 83.
It's like, he's aging really well in that case.
Right. I don't know if I'd take Gruden, though.
I'll tell you, I wouldn't fire Taylor just to hire Gruden.
Yes.
I would fire Taylor to hire Belichick yesterday.
Yeah.
How much would you pay for video of the Mike Brown, Bill Belichick interview?
Just like, two men grunting at each other.
No, candid, neither one knows they're being recorded. Video of what that interview looks like. I would pay so much money to watch that.
It would be Belichick walking in going, you've got a dog shit franchise. You've always had a dog shit franchise. Let me turn this around. You're not going to hire a GM. Let me do both roles. I got you. Like, let's not pretend like this isn't
You
anything
can
that
keep
it isn't.
Duke around.
He just has to report to Bill.
Yeah.
Hey, just
Get
get rid
Bill
of all that
coffee.
shit.
That'd be great. This city wouldn't know what hit it. It would be electric. The content would be electric. And you know what? You know how you could get the entire NFL behind this deal is if he announces the reason why he's coming back is to wipe the grin off that stupid Patrick Mahomes' face.
Oh, see.
We're here to save the NFL from Taylor Swift.
We're here to preserve Tom's legacy.
That's actually it's a motivating factor.
Yeah.
No, it's here to ruin Tom's legacy.
We're here to preserve Belichick's legacy.
Yes,
because he's got to
ruin Andy Reid.
That's a good call.
This is
Belichick
great.
has to get some wins because Reid will catch him, right? Isn't that part of the fear here? Is that
sure? Let's say that.
Sure,
I've not checked
right. It sounds right.
Oh, the media in this town wouldn't know what to do with Bill Belichick. Speaking of increased access, my man is a walking access denied when it comes to dealing with the media.
Which I always appreciated of like, he's the tactician. Like, he's not supposed to be going up there being like, oh yeah, Higgins is hurt, we're not going to play him next week. Everybody, that was always the Patriots thing, is like every single player you've ever heard of was questionable going into this week. Just keep you on your toes.
Yeah, maybe not.
We'll see.
Like, after the fact, you've learned like every interview with an ex-Patriot player was like, oh yeah, no, my hand was broken like that entire year. Like, I think Brady gave an interview one time where he was like, oh yeah, no, I had a partially torn hamstring. I could barely move. And it like never appeared on the injury report ever.
Keep them guessing, baby. I love that. Yeah, but then the second you ask Belichick, like, what's the thought behind, or what's the philosophy behind your long snapper? He'll go for like 25 minutes on the history of the position and the innovations that the long snapper has seen over the years. And like, all right, you can get him talking on the right topic.
And he definitely has an opinion on the counterclockwise versus clockwise rotation on the snap. Like, he studied this extensively and knows exactly which way to snap it.
Yes.
That field goal today, the operation, as they call it in the biz, that operation would have been cleaner on a Bill Belichick coach team. I have no doubt about that.
That is for damn sure. Damn.
This would be great.
Why not? Francona and Belichick would be a really fun 1-2 punch going into next year. Also, don't the Bengals have to like sell the county on their $1 billion? Oh, that's pretty crazy. You might as well build us a new stadium. Little okey doke they're going to pull here. Getting Bill Belichick would go a long way to telling the citizens of Hamilton County that you're trying to put a good product on the field.
It's funny how much the Bengals were clearly feeling themselves with like going to the Super Bowl and like having Joe Burrow. And it's like, man, like, yeah, you thought that like a year or two of success was going to like, you thought you could ask the world.
Right.
After like a year or two of success, as if like taking it for granted that it was just going to continue no matter what you did.
Right.
And like everybody watched you just essentially squander it.
Yeah. And the other thing too I don't think we talked about it, but like they reveal these grand plans for a renovation of Paul Brown Stadium. And it's like the number is 1.2, 1.3 billion. And then you look at the renovations, it's like, what's that building over there? Well, that's our brand new indoor practice facility and team headquarters.
Yeah.
All right. Are you guys paying for that? Yeah. Oh, no, that's included in the $1.2 billion cost to renovate the stadium.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, that's not part of the stadium, man. That's an entirely new building for you to use on premium real estate.
Look,
I got an offer for the Browns.
Okay.
We'll pay for that. You pay for the subway.
The Mike Brown subway.
The Brown subway.
The Brown line.
The Brown line.
He can put Paul Brown's name back on something. Yeah, that'll be the Paul Brown subway.
Be great. Everybody wins right here. You hire Bill Belichick, you build the subway. You know what? We'll put a roof on the stadium too. How about that?
I like that, like, yeah, building, what was it, a slightly larger scoreboard and a nice practice facility in a little office building was going to cost roughly the price of like Nashville's new domed stadium.
Yeah. Or like even adjusting for inflation, it's more expensive than the stadium they built in Minnesota.
Right.
Like that place is really nice. You know what happens? They get to do stuff there, like have big concerts and whatnot.
I mean, that's the pitch, right? It's like, oh, well, if we're already going to do $1 billion, we'll play at Nippert for a year and we'll build a dome.
Right. It's like a few billion here, a few billion there. You'll eventually start talking about real money.
Yeah.
So I have a question. What do you think it feels like to like catch, to like you're the punter and you're doing the hold for the field goal?
Yeah.
And you just watch your hands drop the ball on the ground and you try to like scramble to like get that. What do you think that feels like? Have you ever felt anything like that in your entire life? I don't think so.
It has to be the same feeling as you ever been in a car accident before?
Yeah.
Not that was my fault.
Right. But even still, it's like there is that moment of, so I was in a car accident once where I was driving and somebody I was 2-lane road and somebody was turning off a side street onto the road and they clearly didn't see that I was coming. And so they turned and I got T-boned from the side and like pushed across the road and into a ditch.
Oh.
Like I was fine. Wrecked a perfectly good Jeep Cherokee. But that moment of, oh, he's go, and then smash, that's replaced with, oh, fuck, like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That has to be the only thing I can compare it to, is the realization in real time of, I have botched this so tremendously. And it's all like, God, anything to fix this, anything to not do this. This can't be happening. It
Just
has to be
that moment where the ball is like between his hands, but it's like on the ground.
It's slipping off his fingers right there.
You know, Chief, I'm glad you went with an automobile analogy because, well, while this has never happened to me, and you can look it up to verify, I have to imagine it's having a couple of brewskis driving home and just seeing the red and blue lights behind you. It's that moment of like, fuck.
Right.
Just like it's everything's going to be different from here on out.
But the other thing, too, that's I have no frame of reference to that I can't even imagine. Like the only thing in my life that is probably similar would be like the bar exam, but like that was different to a certain extent, where everything about your job is riding on this one incredibly brief moment.
Yeah.
Like you have to do this one thing correctly in this one moment, or everything else good that you have done for weeks
and everyone else has done for weeks and months
is just negated in this one moment. Like you've had people that have been like carted off the field into the blue tent. You've been having people running their ass off, chasing Lamar Jackson all day. You've had Joe Burrow like hero ball to Jamar Chase. There was that play where somebody chased a dude 95 yards and went back and had a 2-point conversion. Everything. And it all rides on you catching this football and just putting it down on the ground and you fuck that up. Like I can't imagine what the walk to the locker room was for that dude.
It's like how every rom-com like envisions how work life is, where it's like everybody's career boils down to one presentation.
Right.
It's like, I got to give the presentation at my company. It's sort of vague, whatever they're doing. And but they got one big project. Yeah, it's exactly that. And like forgetting the PowerPoint or something.
Do you think there was a moment where you thought about bailing and doing the sad thing where the holder like tries to run out and like, I can pick this first down up?
That's what they teach you is like, if it is bobbled to the point where the kick cannot be good, pick it up and run, or hope to God somebody is in a position to catch a ball. But yeah, pick up and run is generally going to be better.
That would have been a higher percentage play.
Yes.
It also would have saved yardage. If he would have gotten forward even a yard, it would have put the Ravens in a worse position right there.
Exactly.
Like it would have been the better move, right? To like pick up the ball and like see if you can do something with it.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't understand why the person that holds the ball isn't your fastest wide receiver. Because it's someone that like is adept at catching the ball. And if all else goes wrong, at least they might have a chance to run and do something.
I've always been a fan of like a backup quarterback holding.
Backup quarterback makes a lot of sense.
The ball. The Bengals have always used punters.
Yeah, even back when Lee Johnson was the punter when I was a kid, he was the holder.
And I'm like, well, what are they going to do if it goes bad? Kick the ball? Like punt it?
Now it's a punt.
I mean, could
honestly,
do that too.
Also would have been a better move.
Gone and done a rugby style kick.
Yeah.
If Jake Browning is holding the ball, he can do something with it.
He can run, yeah.
He can run. He can throw. Like
get McPherson to trail you, and all of a sudden
you
pitch it to him. Yeah, exactly. So suddenly it's an option play.
Belichick would have this figured out. He would not have this.
No,
and there's a
has it figured out.
So like, I guess like an argument for a punter holding it is like, well, you want the backup quarterback to be focused on like learning the offense and like other things instead of like learning how to like hold the snap like perfectly. And you want a punter to be able, it's easier to add like this to like what the punter is doing in their training.
They're all hanging out together. Yeah.
But the second the punter fucks it up one time, cut him. Like
kind of, yeah. It costs the game.
If the argument is like we can train this person
right
by doing it so many times that they're perfect at it, when they screw it up one time, that entire thing's out because one time you fuck it up. Yeah, like, it is like a one time you fuck it up, like the entire theory of it's out the window.
Right. It's like if the team is like a machine, like a car, and it's racing, and like you have this little piece that it broke, and the car was not able to finish the race, and you lost. You're not using that piece again.
Well, it's like if there's like one function in the car where if like this one function didn't work exactly right, every car would blow up.
Right.
And you're like, well, you can either connect it this way, but this piece is doing a lot of other things, or you can connect it this way and it just focuses on like not blowing up. You want just whatever makes it not blow up.
just I can't emphasize enough the importance of not exploding as being goal number one. The explosion
is what we're avoiding here.
Yeah, like if like the second like that connection makes it blow up, we have to figure out another way to do this.
Yeah, the entire theory has been blown to smithereens.
Like the entire reason we insert this piece here is so the car doesn't blow up, and it blows up. That piece that's gone.
It's no longer a part of this. We found one more useless piece that we can remove from the car.
Also, the number one reason to fire Zach Taylor right now, even if Bill Belichick isn't available, the fact that he threw Joe Burrow under the bus for when the media was calling, why did you run 4 times straight into the pile in overtime? Well, actually, Joe Burrow audibled into one of those. No, my man, that ain't how this works. Like, you are the head coach. You fall on your sword. I didn't have a good play call into Joe. It was a bad play call. It was wrong for the look. We had to audible into a run. It's on me to call a better play in that regard and be better prepared. Don't immediately put it back on the player that was bailing your ass out for not having a defense all day.
Yeah.
Don't blame him. All right. That's a bad look.
I would fire him for this quote. When you are in field goal range and you believe in your kicker, it really is as simple as that. Like, I hate when coaches decide like, oh yeah, or we're in a 55-yard field. I know it's 53 today. Yeah. We have like a 50 to 55-yard field goal. We're going to stop trying to do anything.
Right.
The game's over. Nothing's going to go wrong. Every time that happens, that team deserves to lose.
Yes.
You deserve to lose. You should be trying to advance the ball. You shouldn't be
as
just
far down the field as possible, because
minimize the possibility that something will go wrong.
Yeah.
It
makes the field goal easier as you go further down the field. Your percentage of making it goes up with quite literally every yard you advance.
Does not compute.
Also that quote, not only does that quote like a lie to any responsibility, but it also ignores the fact that he iced his own kicker
with a timeout.
Again, like, further evidence that
it's a bold strategy.
The operation should have been perfect, right?
But hey, lots of teams that are 1-4 have made the playoffs, right?
Do you just sit Burrow the rest of the season?
No, because we're gonna bring in Belichick, and he's gonna turn it around.
If you get Belichick, obviously not. If the plan is to see out Zach Taylor, surely you sit Burrow.
I'll be honest. Yes. If the plan is to keep Taylor the rest of the season, sit Burrow, sit Chase.
Yeah.
And trade T. Higgins. If you're not going to sign him, why aren't you trading him?
Honestly,
he would have immense value to any number of teams.
Nothing good is going to happen. Only these players can get injured.
Right.
Yeah. You don't think that right now, right in this moment, there isn't a team that wouldn't pay a second or a third round pick for T. Higgins for the rest of the season?
I've got a really bad idea. Trade him to the Chiefs for Chris Jones.
Trade him to the Raiders for Max Crosby. Like, they're looking to get
trading him to the Chiefs for Chris Jones might save Zach Taylor's job, so I'm against it.
The Chiefs would be desperate, though. They'd be desperate for a T. Higgins. You could get something good.
Sad.
Oh God. I'm out of topics, gentlemen. I don't know how you feel.
Still waiting on that Sundance annountement.
We are waiting on Sundance.
So go fuck yourself, Boulder.
Go fuck yourself, Park City.
Go fuck yourself, the entire states of Colorado and Utah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. I also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to the show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.